Good afternoon, my villagers. Welcome, welcome again to this show, but we always going to try to bring you some good information. Well, true information, not necessarily good because we're in some trying times this time. But this month, though, is still Women History Month, and we will continue to applaud women who have made a difference in enlightening us in some time or in some way. One that comes to mind for today's podcast is Marvin Collins, a great educator. She transformed the method and practice of teaching. So she's a great lady, and we're going to be bringing other females on. But as my pastor pointed out on Sunday, particularly in these times when our whole presence in this society is being questioned, this podcast will bring you history of us as a people who have done great things that is now being desecrated and erased. I told you last Monday, about how the Black Lives Matter sign on the streets of Washington, D.C. had been bulldozed and removed by this clown in the White House. Well, we, the congregation, was told by our pastors that another historical event has been trampled with. A former hero, Major General Charles C. Rogers of the Vietnam era. You know, his picture had been taken down from the halls of Congress, not just for meanness, but see, trying to destroy our history, which without our history, there will really be no America. See, by destroying our school system, eliminating our history from the library, destroying books, you know, we do need alternatives, and I'm so glad that my church sees the need to bring our history alive. You know, the church I go to, First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens, is following, continuing the tradition of what our church have always done.
Yes.
We've always been taught through our church, you know, our history. And now we have a freedom school that we go to, that this pastor through this church have set up. And it's just it's a divine intervention because God knows we do need our history, you know. So we will be okay. Our history keeps us informed of where we stand in these times of great confusion. You know, we got to understand our situation outside of the normal definition of how others are describing the situation that we are now. See, when you hear the term AI, artificial intelligence, no, for me in my house, that means ancestral intelligence. Our ancestors have laid the groundwork for which we can and will move through these difficult times. See, because these times are not new to us. So when we listen to our ancestors and we hear the edit, stand down when it's time to go, you will know. See, it's time for other groups to fight the fight that we have fought for over 400 years.
Yes.
Now, this dire situation that this country is in today, now I hope you noticed I didn't say that we are in today, because that would imply that this is something new to us. And we know that's not true.
Right.
See, without being hyperbolic, this is America to me. There has never been a time in America where my people, the Africans, have not been between a rock and a hard place.
Absolutely.
Let's take it back. So when we were stolen and brought here, you know, there were a few of us who escaped the brutality, the bestiality, hanging, but the majority of us were enslaved, faced genocide. Then after slavery, there were a few of us who escaped the brutality of Jim Crowism. Most did not. Then the period of so-called integration. Some of us rose through the ranks of upward mobility, while the majority of us stayed below the poverty line. And moving forward in these modern times, we have the Oprah Winfreys, we have the Michael Jordans, we have the LeBron James and the Katana Brown, the Beyoncés, but the majority of us are still running for cover. The prison system is filled with the majority of black bodies. We are disproportionately affected with maladies. Our finances are far behind other groups. So we shouldn't get it twisted. We'll never reap the benefit of this so-called great America. You know, that was established on the back of our ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears. So we've been there. Now, we've been there, we've done that, and still doing that. So what we might be better off doing is giving the fight to others. And we just sort of sit back and watch. Sit back and watch them work. See, what's happening now will hurt those white supremacists worse than it's going to hurt us because they are not used to hard times. We've been there, we've done that. As my pastor suggested, we're going to have to keep telling our history, lest our children will be dumbed down to believing the worst of themselves.
Right.
But now what we're going to do now, if my guest has arrived, I'm not sure. If not, we'll do something else. We've already let the music soothe our soul. You know, music has been the mainstay of our existence, and jazz is one of the cultural experiences of our history. Now, I could not have brought on a better guest today. My co-host will introduce her, but I will tell you, for you jazz enthusiasts, she is the widow of the great saxophone composer Rashawn Roland Kirk. But first, let me thank my team. Sheila Bird, my producer, Juanita McClure, my advisor, and my promo crew, Halim, Elijah, and Chastity. And, of course, this great engineer here, Norm.
Yes,
You got to
Norm.
keep it real here.
Norm.
But my new co-host, Rose Moore, I'm going to read her bio, and she will bring on our guest, if our guest is here. Now, let me just
Let's
read.
just hope she made it.
Yeah, if not, we'll carry on.
Okay.
Okay. Now, my co-host, and I'm just so proud to have her. God sent her to me because I tell you, she's been so faithful. And
Let's start again.
I got the wrong bio.
Mhm.
Got the wrong one. Rose Moore,
Mhm.
a native of New Jersey, is a black history researcher. Miss Moore studies black history from antiquity to modern-day Western civilization.
Yes.
She has investigated the black roots in the Bible, discovering people of color being the only people of the Old Testament scriptures, the progenitors of mankind, and the original people of all civilization. She wrote her first publication on black presence in the Bible in 2004, tracing the root of mankind back to Africa and the first woman's mitochondria DNA, if that's how I pronounce it right. The Discovery Channel has presented the evidence in the documentary film titled, quote, The Real Eve.
Yes.
Today, she continues her research in the spiritual and psychological dynamic of the black man's plight through history. Since then, Ms. Moore has engaged in independent studies on the subject. A graduate of Rutgers in 1980, Eastern Theological Seminary 2004. She served as a licensed chaplain in the urban community of Essex County 2004 and through 2006. United Chaplain Worldwide Outreach, New Jersey chapter. She said, I was ordained a deaconess under Pastor Warren Stevens, later assigned to head Christian education with the last position held as trustee, serving the parishioners of Yakar, I hope I'm pronouncing that right,
Your car worship.
Yakar Worship Center in Newark.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Moore currently studies universal laws as they apply to the spiritual psychological construct of the chapter of man.
Mm-hmm.
She writes papers and articles on the subject. She has taught on the subject since 2010. She facilitates mental wellness and biblical study groups. She is an inventor and #1 prize award winner of the AWISNJ American Women in Science in 2020.
Yes.
Ms. Moore has recently returned to college pursuing a master's degree in psychology with a focus on people of color and Caribbean studies.
Yes.
Her ambition is to help promote health and wellness to her people from the psychological destructive patterns imposed by systemic racism.
Yes.
So now you know, having heard me and my idea around my podcast, she is a perfect co-host. She has gone and involved in all of the studies that I know will give us the information we need to reestablish ourselves, re-understand who we are, where we came from, and what it is that brought us to where we are today.
Yes.
Because there's no doubt about it, we do not represent, many of us do not represent the folks that we find, many of us that we find ourselves in today, the situation we find ourselves in. So our guest, unfortunately, will not be here today.
Yeah, she's not.
And as a result of that, my co-host and I will move forward. I'm going to ask you a few questions,
Okay.
Ms. Moore.
Yeah.
I see you say a native of New Jersey. Now, give me a history of what is this is where you were born. And I ask that question because many of us know that most of us, before a certain age, and I won't go into age, before a certain age, we all came from south. And now that I think you told me that you were born and bred up here.
Yes,
So give me a history of the.
I'm a New Jerseyan.
Okay.
I was born in Belleville, New Jersey,
Okay.
raised in Bloomfield, New Jersey,
Hmm.
and went to high school in Linden, New Jersey. And then I went to Rutgers.
Okay.
And after that, I got married and started a family with my husband in Plainfield, New Jersey.
All right. Good old Plainfield.
Yes, good old Plainfield. And that's where I did most of my studies at, in Plainfield. And my husband was involved with a lot of musicians.
Okay.
You know, his love for music and our love for God.
Okay.
But we wanted to pursue truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a lot of genres and there's a lot of information. And now with the internet,
Mm-hmm.
the world is flowing with information.
Oh, yeah.
But we wanted truth. So
That's the important word, truth.
especially
true
regarding
information,
our
because we
people.
can get a lot of information, all kinds of information coming from all kinds of directions.
Yes.
But most of them, much of what we hear today, particularly in today's society, just not true. And we got to know what's true and what isn't true. And one of the reasons that I'm so glad that we have this podcast, I've been fortunate to have this podcast, is that what I try to do here is bring in information, at least we perish for lack of knowledge. But I need the knowledge that it's true,
Yes, true.
you know. So now you gave me your background here, but what made you get involved with the ministry?
The ministry, I think I've always wanted to know about God.
Okay.
I always wanted to know God. I was brought up in the church, but there was just something missing. I know God who hung the stars, the skies, controls everything, holds back the water, had to be greater than what we were learning.
Okay.
And it takes a relationship. You just can't read. You have to have a relationship with God. And then study like you would. I asked God, I told God I wanted to know the truth. He said, search for it like you would silver and gold. So you have to have an inward drive and a love for truth. You know, study his word because we want unadulterated truth.
Right, right.
And we were never taught that because as I began my studies in 2004, I found out that the whole Old Testament was black. If you look up the people that were dedicated, when Solomon dedicated the temple, all the people that were there that were Jews can be tracked back to Africa. So we're not only the original people, but we are God's people.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We are his firstborn. And every melanated person was marked by God so that he will know his children, and he wants his children to know him.
And see, many times when you bring up the subject up about what color is now, I said, I think the other day at the class, we've been over 400 years looking at a blonde, blue-eyed, and no one had to qualify it. No one had to go around saying, well, no, this is not the case. And it was just recent that we learned or been told in any degree that there was the Jesus and the Lord were black.
Right.
Now we got to qualify. Now we got to say, well, we're saying that because, and it doesn't matter who, and it doesn't matter what color. I always ask the question, well, if it doesn't matter what color, why not just tell the truth?
Exactly.
If he's green, tell the
Exactly.
truth.
Exactly. That
If
is
he's,
such a good
you
point.
know, just tell the truth. And
That's right.
apparently it does matter.
It
God does not
matters.
do anything haphazardly.
That's right.
If he brought the color of black into space in any way, he did it purposely and meaningfully.
Right.
You know, so it wasn't like by happenstance. I just want to make something, and I go out here and create you black.
Right.
No, it does matter.
Yes, it matters.
I may not know I don't know God's reason for doing whatever,
Right.
but I do know whatever He does matters.
Right.
I do know that. So if He made a person green, it would matter. So,
Right.
but our history tells us that He came from Africa,
Yes.
out of Africa. Jesus out of. So why want us to misread the implication behind what that means, that he was a black man out of Africa? You know,
I believe it was deliberate by design.
well, it was obviously
especially
it was.
Western civilization.
Yes, yeah.
They wanted us to think that the white man was a reproduction of our God.
Yeah, well, they had to do that in order to enslave us, to make us think that we were the people in the Bible that were supposed to be enslaved.
Absolutely.
So there was a lot of misunderstanding about
Absolutely.
our history. So you was talking about your family, your children. How many?
I have three.
Three?
A
Okay.
boy and 2 girls. I'm very proud of.
Okay.
And you know, young people, they do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they're very well educated.
Okay, good.
Very well educated. Their father also he was an engineer.
Okay.
And so he brought the children up under that knowledge of knowing that you need to be educated. Because if you don't know who you are, and if you don't know where you're from,
Right.
you will believe anything.
Exactly. And the truth of the matter is, we did come from a whole line of educators, some of the
Inventors,
inventors and
rulers,
yeah,
kings, queens,
all
even
in the book.
from the beginning of time.
That's what I mean, from the beginning.
Is that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
Our ancestors built cities. They built nations.
Yeah.
They were rulers of empires.
Right.
And this country wanted to hide all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That is why they made everything Caucasian color, because I don't even like saying white. They are not white. They are Caucasian color because they came out of the mountains.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they came from us.
Yeah.
They are a mutation of our genes, and they lack the melanin, which is the God, to me, the God formula, that melanin. They're finding out now how important that melanin is.
Yeah, and see, we need to know that.
Yes.
Not just them, because they know, many of them know the history. They know what it is, who we are.
Yes.
We are the ones that really, because of the stripping, and I stress
Yes.
that all the time on this
Yes.
podcast, that we are uniquely different people, because there is a difference in even in being enslaved. There were other people enslaved, we understand that, but we are the only one in the history
Yes.
that was stripped of
Yes.
our language, our heritage, our Bible,
Identity,
our
everything.
identity, everything,
Yes.
and which make us different in terms of how we have to describe ourselves or defend our existence.
Yes.
You know, you may go around and even with these terms now they got with affirmative action and the DEI and all that kind of stuff. That's just another way of trying to put us in a place.
Yes.
And obviously, if we don't understand the history, we will accept that or believe that we do not belong anywhere other than where they put us.
Yes.
And we understand, though, most of us, that we have to be 3 and 4 times as good as
Exactly.
they are to get even near
Exactly.
what they're involved with. And so what is happening now in terms of what Trump and those are doing particularly, you know, they are just trying to reverse that dichotomy,
Yes.
the dichology about the psychology, about who we are and who they are. You know, we got to move up to, we got to climb a ladder to get to be where they, and they are never, we should never use that term that I'm just as good as they are.
Right.
What
That's
does that
right.
imply?
Exactly.
That they are good and we trying to, they were never good. And I use that, and I'm not being mean to use that. I'm saying in order to defend ourselves,
Exactly.
to put us in a position where we should be, we got to tell the truth.
Exactly.
And if the truth is that they purposely they purposely described and malign us in that way that made us look beneath them, always beneath them.
Absolutely. When
Yeah.
we were actually the builders.
Right.
When we were actually original man.
Right.
You know, it's
It's
amazing.
a crazy kind of dichotomy here.
I am not surprised at what they're doing.
Mm-mm.
What I'm upset about is I didn't recognize it when they had Desert Storm.
Mm.
They said they went into Desert Storm, and what they went in for was a lie.
Mm.
And it's funny because the minute they killed Saddam Hussein,
Mm-hmm.
they destroyed the Sumerian relics,
Mm.
the buildings, the statues that was Nebuchadnezzar's
Mm.
empire. But before Nebuchadnezzar,
Mm-hmm.
it was the empire that Noah's sons built.
Mm.
The Sumerian Empire, even before that, they came out of the Sumerian Empire. They had the first aqueducts, the first bridges. They had the first piping, the first running water tubs. They had hanging gardens.
Mm-hmm.
And they went in there and they destroyed it. They had orders to destroy
Yeah.
all of that history.
All of that history.
That was
That's just
our
sinful.
history.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they do that. That's their history. And one of the things that I know that I feel very strongly about is that they have succeeded by the narrative that they created around things.
Yes.
They're very good at
Very
that.
crafty.
Very crafty. And we sometimes we reject even using true narrative. They use lies
Right.
to get whatever they want to
Right.
get across. When they claimed that the Democrats stole the election, they knew that was a lie, but it was
Right.
creating a narrative.
Right.
And the narrative kept going on and on and on throughout the whole 4 years, and then till he stole the election.
Exactly.
But if you notice, and I'm not sure why that is, I'm still trying to find out from someone, why aren't we not untrue narrative? Why aren't we talking about the stealing of the election from a true perspective?
Right.
That would be true
Right,
narrative.
right.
We got to learn how to create a narrative. That's truth. I wouldn't go beyond truth, but we got it right in our faith. And I don't hear a lot about them stealing the election. We rather point fingers at ourselves or other folks like us and say, well, they did it. We voted. I seriously don't believe all those voted for Trump.
No.
When it was against
That's
their
what
best
they
interest.
wanted. I believe.
Yeah.
This is what I believe. I
But
believe.
plus, when he had everything going for him, he knew about stealing the election when
Of
he was
course he
claiming
did.
it. Then he had the resources to do it. He had
Elon Musk. That's what I was getting ready to
the
say.
richest man in the world.
Yes. Exactly.
And the knowledge and the know-how. They had all that in front of them.
Because he controls
They
AI.
controlled it. So why wouldn't he have done it? Make logical sense that he would have done it to stay out of jail, to do a lot of other things, a lot of his family and friends. And for us not to, I just don't understand why people are silent about that. You know, what makes that happen.
I believe that they are talking. I know Roland Martin.
Oh, well, yeah,
And
people
different
like him, and
people
that's
that
why I want
have
to
their
suggest my
own.
people to listen to the Black News Station.
Exactly.
If you're listening to Series 126 or you're listening to Roland Martin, there's a number of places that we can go to now
Right.
to listen to for true knowledge.
Right.
And we got to do that. But I mean, the larger society, they are not allowing that message to get through.
Of course
to
not.
the
They're controlling the media. Therefore, they're controlling the narrative.
They control
and they're
the narrative.
suppressing different things, you know?
Yeah.
So it is imperative that we educate our own
Yeah.
and get the news out.
Yes.
We're going to have to do like we used to do.
Yes.
Get that news out, even if it means through the churches.
Yeah.
We're going
And
to
that's
have
where a
to get that
majority of it
news.
is coming through right now. The churches, and then we are, I hope, organizing the homeschoolings again.
Yes,
I
we're
know
gonna have to.
we have here at this podcast back some months ago when Governor DeSantis with his silly self made the statement that they trained us skills when we came over from Africa, when they stole us from Africa. Well, I had not thought of homeschooling. My sister, my late sister, bless her soul, she always did a little homeschooling at the house,
Mhm.
and she taught her nephews and stuff.
Mhm.
And so when I got this podcast came up, I decided, well, no, if we're going to say that, we need to, as African people, that's what we need to do, is start our kids from
We need
home
that,
before
yes.
they even leave the nest.
Yes.
So they will know who they are and whose they are.
That's right.
Where they won't have to confront a person like him, because he was a teacher at one time, Governor Santa.
Mhm.
So he had taught a lot of misinformation to our children.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if we allow our children to be left in the hands of people like that,
Yeah.
we need to know, we need to start them from home, at least learning about their history,
Yes.
not only from here, from
Yes.
the diaspora, but from their homeland of Africa.
Absolutely.
And once we teach them, it can be ongoing. But if we allow them to fall through the crack and not know their history, we're really going to be lost in terms of who we are.
It
Yeah.
is so important,
Mhm.
and we need to get with Africans.
Mhm.
You know, it's unfortunate that what really made me know how important what you were doing
Mhm.
is because I have a picture of Jordan, the famous actor Jordan. You know, I mean, the actor Jordan. I can't think of his
I'm
first
trying
name.
to think of his name now.
Yeah, he played in.
know who
He
you're talking
played in with Chad Boseman.
Right, Chad.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and well, that famous actor Jordan, he did a trip through Africa,
Mhm.
and in one of the villages he went to, they were teaching him to make banana wine,
Okay.
and the lady brought her daughter to meet him,
Mhm.
and the young girl had on. I took a picture of it.
Okay.
I have plenty of pictures.
Mhm.
The young girl had on a beautiful African outfit,
Right.
but in the middle of it was a white Jesus,
Mm.
and I thought I would die.
Mhm. That's what happened. I told you. I
In the
visited
motherland?
In the motherland. I tell you how important it is for us to
Absolutely.
get don't assume in Africa that we know more than we know here.
Exactly.
You know, because they were colonized.
Exactly.
We were enslaved. They were colonized and taught
Exactly.
that mess. You know,
Exactly.
brainwashed. And a good
Yes.
friend, Dr. Calfani, said brain dirty.
Yes.
Yeah, because they know the same. They have heard the same narrative and the same misinformation that we've heard. I visited Africa 2 or 3 times when I was in Senegal.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed at this place. My cousin had this big house, and we stayed there. We had this driver, this chauffeur, and on the tag of his car license plate, there was this Jesus, this Caucasian Jesus.
Unbelievable.
And I asked him. He said, "Yeah, well, they brought." He said, "When the missionaries came over,
Yes.
yeah,
The
they
Catholic
rescued us
missionaries.
from the, you know." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "That's what you've been taught." And I didn't go any further because that
Right.
was some years ago.
Right.
But yeah, and then in the artifacts in his house, white Jesus, you know. So we've been
That was heart-wrenching for me.
very heart wrenching.
'Cause that is the motherland.
Yeah, but they were misinformed too.
Right.
You know, the narrative, if you this European narrative cuts across,
Mm-hmm.
you know, places and generations. And
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons we got to learn how to create narrative that's going to be just as strong and powerful. At least ours will be true narrative.
Right.
And I think truth crushed to the earth, I'm going to
Shall
use that
rise
word, shall rise
again.
again. And I believe that. So I think we should be very diligent in trying to create something that would inform us.
And we have to support our people that are taking on that initiative and putting forth that effort
Yeah,
to educate our people.
Yeah.
We need everyone to get involved.
right.
And if you have expertise
Mm-hmm.
as an offering,
Yeah, yeah.
We
And
have to
when I
leave it for
say
our
Rose your
ancestors'
note,
children.
one of the things I didn't say in the introduction when I introduced my team here, I always tell the title of this podcast, Unapologetic Amateur, Looking for Experts in Africanism.
yes,
And I mean that deliberately. Africanism in terms of knowing what you know.
Right.
And you know, I tell you that I believe it's going to take these 3 elements. It's going to take the historian who knows about our history from the very beginning through the Middle Passage to now.
yes, yes,
It's going to take the the psychologists.
Yes,
Because without
absolutely.
understanding, and many people haven't gone there, I don't know why they haven't, but we got to know that there was a difference in our enslavement. We were
Yes.
stripped,
Yes.
and I don't read anywhere here.
Psychologically stripped.
Yeah, well, not even talking about the physical stripping,
That's
the
a
raping,
whole
that's a
nother
whole
thing.
nother subject. But psychologically, we were stripped of everything
Yes.
dear to us,
Yes.
and that takes us into a totally different life
Yes.
in terms of what other folks can claim. That's why there should be no question about our reparation. We should discard all this other stuff, affirmative action and all that they now can snatch from us and claim that we're not qualified and
Right.
not deserving of it.
Right.
If we concentrated totally on reparation, we wouldn't need any of that stuff. Not that we shouldn't have it, because whatever we could get,
Right.
we deserve it.
And we will rise
Yeah,
again.
but
trust me.
if we got reparation, that would put us in a position to financially,
Right. Right.
to be on a footing with other folks, because
Right.
that's what this country and this world is about, money. So we know we're the least.
Right.
And the one things that we're trying to teach here is the idea behind us learning, understanding why we're not where we are.
Right.
Because, see, many of us, particularly the ones of us who don't know about the stripping, we think we're not doing what other folks doing because some of us think we're lazy. I don't know how we can
Right.
think that.
Right.
Think we're stupid, think we're a whole
Right.
lot of other things.
Right.
But if we knew the condition by which we came through, what other folks never did, we would give ourselves some slack
Exactly.
and say, no, if any human being went through what we went through,
we are resilient.
yeah, and you have to know that it has an effect.
Yes.
It has an effect on us because you cannot be stripped and come out on top.
Yes.
That's just like acting
absolutely.
like a man with a broken leg expecting him to walk as fast as you walk, and you know he has a disadvantage.
Especially in the mind.
Right. So what I'm saying is we got to get to the point that our people understand that there's something we got to do to make us understand that it's going to take someone other than just a regular educator or just a regular person who know the history, know about what happened to bring us through. I use analogies. And this virus came out, and I know God put this in my head, because I had just done my 5th book, Why Shouldn't I Cry, Ode to the Black Man? And it came out around the very time the pandemic came through.
2020.
Because my church had just assigned me to do a book signing. But we couldn't do it because it was closed. The churches were closed at that time because of the pandemic.
Right.
But God had sent me the idea, said, better use that example to explain why you think that there's a whole different thing to Africanism. Because when the pandemic came through, I mean, it just destroyed so much and so many people, that particularly after
Yes,
it had
it
gone through
did.
2 million people. And people begin to wonder, now what's happening here? I'm not even getting into the politics of it. I don't know who did what or when or where. I'm saying it happened, and
Right.
it was an effect on the people.
Yes. Definitely.
So, we knew right away, though, we knew right away that to understand at least a little bit what we need to do to get through it, we had to go to someone who had some
The
study,
experts.
the experts.
Yes.
So I even went to my primary doctor just to get some information, because at the time I hadn't put it in that context. Well, I just need an expert. He did, because I asked him something that made him say, you have to go. I'm not an expert.
Right.
Now, here's a doctor, a primary care doctor who was
He was
Harvard
honest
graduate.
enough to say.
Honest enough to say that. We need to put ourselves in that category, because I have what you call it, what our situation.
Right.
I've coined it African slave virus 401, meaning that it
Truly
was
said, my sister.
yeah, meaning that
Yes.
it's a virus
Yes,
that had
it is.
come upon us these years ago when they stole us, brought us over here through the Middle Passage, hoisted us up on slave blocks,
Yes.
be sold to the highest bidder.
Yes.
After you were sold, you separated your families. After separating your families, you raped
it
the
right
women,
there,
raped the
separating
men
your
too,
families,
and
right.
did a lot of other heinous stuff
Yes.
that's very inhuman, that had to have a total effect on us, which it did. So we got to know. We got that just as we got the epidemiologists.
Yes.
We got
The
to have
virologists,
some. We got to have someone
immunologists,
equal
right.
to come and help
Come
us
in.
come through with our virus.
Yes.
That African slave virus.
Yes.
That got many of us.
Yes.
Not thinking beyond our circumstances.
Yes.
I say we don't think. Many of us don't think beyond our circumstances because why would we if we haven't been trained and we haven't
Right.
been told what happened to us? Because we look at ourselves and we say we're the least in economics, we're the least in education, and we're the least in wealth. Why?
Right. Because of the forces that have come up against
but
us.
we don't know that. Sometimes
Right.
we don't see that. We'll
Right.
say because we
Because
don't
we're so
work
busy
harder.
existing,
right.
surviving.
And we have not come to the conclusion yet, our experts in Africanism,
Mm-hmm.
that we need someone special,
Yes.
the same as that
The
pandemic.
virus, yes,
The
needed
virus
it to crack that virus.
Exactly.
Yes.
We need someone equally as special,
Mhm.
so we won't end up getting Kanye West talking about
Yes,
us,
yes.
or getting any of the wealthy athlete,
Yes.
or even a PhD person. I mean, it could be anyone. If you recall, when this virus came out, not that Trump has any kind of brain there, but he was the most powerful man in the world because he was
At
the
the
president
time, he was
at
the
the time.
president. Yes.
When he came out and said we needed to inject bleach, we knew then that wasn't the one to go to. We didn't even try to go to Kanye West. We didn't try to go to Beyonce. We didn't try to go to
None of them.
None of these wealthy
I went
sports
to the
people.
doctors.
Yeah, none of these sports people because they were not qualified
Exactly.
to go. We should see ourselves in the same position.
Yes.
If we had gone
I'm
through
in
what
agreement.
what we went through those years ago with slavery,
Mm-hmm.
we should not expect just anyone that we can go. But we'll grab anybody. We'll grab a sports person
Right.
to be our
Right.
spokesperson.
Right.
We can't even grab. I think about the former President Obama.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of black men was a little bit offended
Yeah.
when he came out with that book.
Mm-hmm.
What about the black boys?
Mm-hmm.
Can't think of the book now. What's
Yeah,
it?
I don't either, but I know the one you mean.
But when he came out with that book, he meant well. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure he did not mean to try to hurt anyone. He just didn't understand, no more than the average person,
Right.
the whole idea behind what the history.
Mm-hmm.
He may know of some history, but he didn't know the consequences. What I'm trying to say,
Right.
of some of the stuff that we went through. So when he wrote the book and sort of in a little, accused black men of not doing
enough.
what they
Yes.
should because implying that they may have been lazy or whatever,
Right.
it offended, and naturally so. But even the ones offended should have known that he would not have said that if he had known better.
Right. Right.
So that's why we have to get to
he
the
was, I
root.
believe, trying to invoke them
He
to
was.
rise up.
No, he was, but it was like if you were, again, I'm going to use the analogy of the virus. That was trying to tell me I'm hooked up on all kind of gadgets, trying to go
Right.
through a virus, and you're going to blame me for being there.
Yeah, for being there. Right.
It doesn't matter what you were trying to do. You
Right.
maybe trying to be helpful to take me, but to blame me, we would have known right away. No, you can't blame her because she doesn't know any more about it than the person next door.
Right.
We got to get an expert. Got to
Right.
get someone who know how to tell her what she can
Right.
do.
Right.
Well, with our situation, until we get there, until we understand that there got to be what I call experts in Africanism. I tell anybody, I'm an expert in
Finding someone.
no, I'm an expert in living black
Oh yeah, me
because
too.
I live black every day.
Right. Right.
I know the ins, the outs, the up and down, the
Right.
good, the bad.
Right.
But I'm not an expert in black living.
Right.
That's a whole nother keg of worms.
Right. Right.
Black living means you have to know the ins and outs of what we went through, what
Yes,
we're going through, what it
yes,
happened
yes.
in the
Have
stripping.
to have that knowledge and that experience have to meet up together. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. Unfortunately, Obama was one of the ones who were privy to white privilege.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he fully understands, although he should.
Well, maybe not. Maybe he shouldn't understand. See, we assume that because he got his PhD, went to Harvard, and got
Yeah.
the whole nine. But if he does not, that's just like me understanding that, my primary doctor understanding that virus. He had all the credential, you know, but he didn't have the credential of being
A virologist,
a
to
virologist.
understand how viruses work.
Right. We should use that example for us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what we need to do is get certain people together, as did the virologists, and try to, come up with. They wouldn't have gotten me. I was talking to a historian, very renowned historian. I don't even call the name, but it was a renowned historian. I was shocked because when I first started this podcast, I called him. I wanted him to come on and be my guest. He said, I explained to him it was an expert in Africanism, unapologetic amateur. He said, well, no, you don't have to be an amateur. He said, all you have to do is know your history, meaning that you could be an expert.
Right.
I said to him, I wasn't going to argue with him, but I said to him, I don't think so. I said, I know the history of the virus. I know. I said, but no one will come to me thinking that I'm going to have any kind of understanding about how to cure this virus, how to suggest any cure around it. So more than just knowing your history, have to know the ins and out of the history. That's why I say the three people that we need.
And you're absolutely right. But I can understand what he was saying also, because when the virus first came out, and I prayed about it, and they said that they were preparing a vaccine, right away a red flag went up. Okay? And the thing that I'm getting to is that because I wrote a patent, I know in order for them to do that, they had to have a patent. So while everybody else was trying to get information, I went to read the patent. So you have to know. If you don't know, you have to ask questions, begin to ask questions, and to begin to do your homework, because God said, study to show thyself approved, a workman that need not be ashamed, rightfully dividing the word of truth. So in that, I didn't know anything. Even though I had somewhat of a medical and biology background, I didn't know anything about this either.
Primary doctor, I was telling you about.
Right,
he had more than he was an expert in his area. But he
what was his area? What was
just
his area?
He was a primary
general
doctor,
practitioner.
General practitioner.
Okay.
And but he was expert in that.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with being an expert in the virus. The area of the virus, the virology.
And this was a tricky virus, too, because the way they put it together, they put that thing together.
Well, regardless of what they did, you just said it. It was unique in that there was nothing like it had come through in over 100 years.
That's right.
That's why I'm trying to make the analogy of ours.
Yes.
Ours was so unique. Nothing had come through what we went through, not only in 100 years. I have never read it
even in the Bible.
Even in the Bible.
Yeah, you're right.
So I was so uniquely different. We should treat it that way.
Right.
We should treat it as that they treated that virus. When it came through, they had special people, and all of us didn't even believe them, but at least most of us felt that they knew a lot more about it than we did.
But you notice it wasn't on mainstream media. You had to be involved in private media. Or subscription media online like Rumble, Gateway Pundit, the Health Manager, people like that, Lewis Hughes, because these people had their own. The mainstream media like ABC News and Fox News, they are scripted because they're owned by people, so they did not have the information, wasn't given the information, and was denied access to finding out the information. A lot of the information that I found out came through the religious networks. Is that unbelievable?
Well, even with them, they may, as with our president, they may have presented themselves as knowing about what the situation was. But I think most of them admitted or came to the conclusion that it was not in their preview. There was not in whatever they have studied.
Right.
It was not there. So they know to pass it on to
The experts.
the expert. You know, that seemed common sense to me with our situation.
Right.
But many of us will allow other folks, when we get into situations, there's been people, I can't even think of this guy's name, but he's a sports person. And they always call him up like he has some information.
Brian Gimble?
Not Brian
No.
Gumble.
Gumble.
No, I can't even think, so I'm not going to even
Okay.
try. But they'll call him, or they'll call Kanye West, or they'll call anyone. Just not trying to point these people, but you call Michael Jordan. He may have billions, millions of dollars, has nothing to do with him having the knowledge of
Exactly.
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So we have to get people who would know the why and the why not, or what happened to us, and what effect what we went through had on our result. You know, because we are in a position now that we sometimes don't know why we are less than, or seem to be less than. But even with all that, we come out on top. So that has to be explained too.
Because
some
who
of
we
us
are,
right,
and what's in us.
It is.
It's because of what, believe you me, it's what's in us.
Yeah.
The problem is we don't know
Yeah.
who we are. We don't even know how powerful we are.
Exactly.
But that day is coming.
But see, that's right. But that's the point I'm trying to make, in that we got to think from a different perspective, in that
Yes.
we can't just assume
Yeah.
we know what we don't know,
Yes.
and can't blame ourselves or
Absolutely.
think that it's a fault of our, you know, the book I wrote, my second book, Verbal Healing. I talk about how we have just been so brainwashed and so brain damaged that we will say things about ourselves, you know, and the words I said, I call it verbal healing. The book I did was Verbal Healing, because I want to try to heal people from using those terms.
Yes. That's
We'll
important.
because when we use the word, well, we are our worst enemy. You know, how can we be our worst enemy? We never enslaved each
Because of ignorance.
other. And they say we, what is it? A few other sayings that are so familiar for us. We don't stick together.
Yes.
Now, we didn't stick together, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
We are worse than it. We don't stick together. We like crabs in the barrel. We all are in the barrel. We are crabs in a barrel, but not by choice. And we're not trying to grab onto each other to bring them down. If it seems like we're grabbing on, it's because we're just all of us trying to get out of the barrel. But to understand all that, we need people who can train us in ways of thinking.
Yes.
Of
And
understanding.
you said something very important. You spoke to a lot of our stars and our athlete and people of affluence, people that have been able to raise themselves up
Right.
by their talent, by the bootstraps, and are in a position to fund our initiative to find these experts
Yeah.
and get them to the table. I look at people like Tyler Perry, love Tyler Perry. You're making millions and millions and millions off the stories that you've narrated around, entertaining your people. How about putting some of that money?
But you know, Rose, I understand what you're saying, and you're true, but he's not the one. He may not know better.
Right.
He's not the expert we need. He just has the money. Maybe he could help us, provide the money.
That's what I'm talking
But he
about.
is
the
not
funding.
that. He doesn't even realize what he's doing negatively.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So he may think for practical purposes, he might think he's doing a great thing, a big thing. Let me call out some of my folks here now. Dina Roberts, happy birthday. Happy birthday. It's really not my birthday, but thank you anyway. It's a Lloyd Chavez. Good afternoon, fellas. My son, Sheila Bird. Hello. Terry Benjamin. Okay. Hello, Queens, he said. Rashida Johnson. Always good to see you guys. Terry Benjamin. Tavia. My granddaughter. I'm on. We'll have some static noise, she said. Okay. Sound is all clear. Oh, okay. Robert Cabbage Stock. We're watching family. Good. And, okay, let me see. Dina Robinson again. Joy Jackson from California, watching family. Okay, just push them up and I'll read them off. I am so honored and glad
Yes.
that you all are tuning in, because it's so necessary. We didn't get our guest on today, but we should have her next week. She's a jazz great.
Yes.
Her husband Let me tell you about where what we was looking for. Rashawn wrote for you jazz enthusiasts. Rashawn Roland Kurt. You know, he was one of the was a saxophonist and composer, great person in the jazz area, and she is going to hopefully be on next week. But she was one of the founders of WBGO Radio, and she's still doing a lot in the Newark area. So we're really going to try to have her on next week. But Rose, to get back to this book that I wrote about verbal healing, we must reject tired, trite, tasteless, and other nonsensical expressions that keep us damaged. Talking about some of them, and we are our worst enemy. I told you about that. And we black people don't stick together, you know, and we are not a monolithic group. We like that word, but we need to be a little bit more monolithic.
Yes,
because
we
we
do.
never have gotten together like
Come
other
in one
folks.
accord
Yeah.
to the effort.
And to understand where we're trying to be.
Yes.
So we talking 50 different languages, not the real language, but I mean we talking impressions about who we are. Wherein other folks get together, the John Birch Society. They have a group of people who go together and talk about what they got to do. The Jewish folks have their different organizations.
Even the
that can
Indians.
do.
They have
All people except us. And I'm not blaming again. We can't point fingers at us if we don't know.
Right.
You know, these people have never been stripped. So I'll talk about our friends, the Jews. They went through the Holocaust.
Yes.
But having come out of the Holocaust, they was ready to take over to where they left off because they had not been stripped. They still had everything intact.
Yes.
Their religion, their
Yes.
finances,
Yes.
may not
Yes.
have their
Yes.
finances, but their religion and whatever they needed.
Yes.
Their culture. That is basically what it is. If you strip the person of their culture, we don't know we built the pyramids.
Right.
We didn't know for a whole long time that we were the greatest scientists. We didn't know we were the greatest mathematicians.
Absolutely.
We didn't know these things
Absolutely.
to keep us on a level, footing with other folk. We felt always in beneath because they told us we were beneath. So we have to understand all that in order to move forward. And but there's a lot we gonna learn, a lot we are learning. I'm encouraged by what's happening around the situation we're in. And I
Yes.
say the situation because we are in a dire situation, no doubt about it, the way they're going through now and doing things. But I just believe that it's all for a reason.
Yes, I do. I do
It's
believe
going to
that.
give us the courage and the energy and to move in a direction that God has always meant for us to move in.
Yes.
We just were sidetracked
I
for a
believe
minute.
we are going to be provoked to
Yeah.
doing what we should have did a long time
Yeah.
ago. And
Yeah.
when we come together in one accord, we will get the job done.
Oh, definitely.
And we will rise up and we will speak truth to power.
Right.
And they will have to bow.
Yeah, definitely. I believe
Let my
that.
people go. Psychologically, let them go.
Yeah, it's a lot of psych to it, I'm saying. It's not always the physical thing. And even with that, we're in a totally different position than we have been in.
Yes, yes, yes.
When we came over, when they stole us and brought us over, and even with our disadvantage, we did fight. At least we didn't think we didn't. There was a lot of insurrections. There was a lot of people who went to their death, our ancestors, fighting to get us free. So, and even through the emancipation,
Yes.
we fought. We fought.
The Civil War, we won it for
Yeah,
this
and
country.
then the emancipation, and then after we've gone through the emancipation, and then there was the Jim Crow. We still fought. We fought, and
We're
then
still fighting.
after the Jim Crow, this so-called integration.
The civil rights
We
movement,
still
we're
fought.
still fighting for
There was
every
a civil
little
rights
piece of freedom
era.
that we have.
Yeah, so we understand what fighting is about.
Yes.
The difference now, we are in a little better position, better shape, because at that time, and we still fought, we were at a disadvantage because when they brought us over here, they knew every inch of where we were.
Yeah.
So that's why it came so important for us to protect the one instead of the group. The mentality was protect the one.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of things went on because we know that if they caught us doing whatever, then they would come get the whole group because they knew where we were. The one point where we were. so different now.
But that's the same
We are-
mentality in locking our men up in jail. We
Well,
got to get our men out
yeah.
of prison.
And plus, but we're in a different position now.
Yeah,
so
we're a
we're
little better.
intermixed with so many things. First, we're intermixed with them.
Yes.
And secondly, we're intermixed with how the services that's about now
Mm-hmm.
in the army, in the government,
Yes.
in the sports,
Mm-hmm.
wherever they are, we are.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference now is they can't pick us out just singularly.
Right. Right.
If we fight
Right.
together. Now
If
they
we
can
fight
if we
together.
sit down and allow them to come pick
Yes.
one out of the neighborhood.
Yes.
But I don't think that's
But
going
they
to happen
always
anymore.
want to make an example. Look what they did to Kevin Kaepernick, and all
Yeah.
he did it was
right.
get on
But
his-
we got to change. We got to change our way of thinking. We got
Our
to allow
strategies, yes.
a strategy. You just said it. We cannot allow them to pick one off.
Right.
It has to be the group coming
Exactly,
together. And I think that's what's
exactly.
happening this time. I think they're going to force us to become
I'm sure
one.
they are.
Yeah,
I'm
and
sure.
that way we want to allow them to do a cabinet. the
I'm
way they
sure.
did him.
I'm sure.
Or Floyd.
That we have
Joy
to get
Floyd.
to our dear brothers like the golfer. What's his name?
I
I can't think of his name right now. But I just seen today where he's going public about his engagement to another blonde hair, blue eye, which is fine. That's not it. But you
Tiger
are
Woods you're talking
Tiger
about.
Woods. You're a brother. You're part of the struggle.
Right.
Whether you know so or not.
And that's another thing we got to get away from
They
too.
separate us.
Yeah, another thing we got to get away from too, in this very quickly, we got to stop allowing them to have to do. We defend our issues around what we know we're talking about. It was never about them, our men going with their women,
Right.
or the blonde
Right.
woman.
It doesn't
It
matter.
was what it did to the black woman,
Right.
in terms of
Exactly.
demeaning her in ways
Exactly.
that made her look less than.
Right.
So it was
Right.
not about them going with the white women. It was about what that whole dynamic did to us as women. And once they understand that, but see who create the narrative are the ones who will succeed in defining
Yes.
what you're going to think.
Right. Right.
They knew
right.
better in the first place.
They
They
knew
know
what they
what's
were
in-
doing when they coerced him. They were told to come around him, embrace him, and coerce him into the decisions that he made of who he pair up with. Because she was his first wife. Erin was a maid. She was a maid and a nanny.
Oh, you talking about that Tiger Wood? I don't even.
Yeah.
I don't even consider.
No,
him.
I'm just saying.
But I know. Understand
the
what you're talking
mindset,
about. The mindset.
not
Yeah.
even him personally, just the mindset
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of us have
Right.
when we reach that status.
You're absolutely right. One of the things that we have to be conscious of is even those people have been missed the mark. I think it may be time for us to get out of here.
Yeah,
We
we've been
enjoyed
having
ourselves, had
such a
such a
good
good
time,
time, I
yes.
tell you. And I just enjoy
Good
my folks who,
conversation.
my villagers that come on. We're going to bring you some great information every day, every Monday we can, and just keep watching. And God bless.
Yes.